Investigators tell 48 Hours they have a person of interest in the mysterious death of one of Hollywood's most alluring actresses. Natalie Wood allegedly drowned in 1981, and her death was originally ruled an accident.
But in 2011, 30 years after her death, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department revealed it was reopening the investigation into Woods' death. Now, after 6 years on the case, investigators are breaking their silence with new leads in this Hollywood mystery. 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty has a story of who is now being considered a person of interest.
In life, Natalie Wood was one of the biggest film stars imaginable. A child star in Miracle on 34th Street.
Well, young lady, what's your name?
Susan Walker, what's yours?
Then Rebel Without a Cause.
I'm never going back.
And Gypsy.
I am Gypsy Rose Lee!
But it is her mysterious death that keeps her legend alive. In 1981, Natalie Wood was out sailing with her husband, actor Robert Wagner, her Oscar-winning young co-star Christopher Walken, and their captain Dennis DeVerne, when she mysteriously disappeared from the yacht.
I remember people coming on the boat saying that they had found Natalie Wood floating. I just couldn't believe it.
Natalie's death was quickly ruled an accidental drowning, but rumors and allegations of foul play remained, fueled in great part by the boat's captain, Dennis DeVerne. He claims there was a terrible fight between Natalie and Wagner outside on the back of the boat that night.
I believe that Robert Wagner was with her up until the moment she went into the water.
I'm Lieutenant John Carino.
30 years later, in 2011, DeVerne and over 700 others signed a petition asking the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department for a second look.
This new information is substantial enough for us to want to take another look at the case.
The case was reopened. Lieutenant Carina and veteran homicide detective Ralph Hernandez have been doggedly working it ever since.
So over the last 6 years, have you been able to get even more evidence that makes you question that this was an accident?
We have. We believed that there was a lot more to it than what was being told.
They weren't alone. A medical examiner, after reviewing the number of bruises in the autopsy report, changed the manner of death from accidental to undetermined.
Why are all these bruises suspicious to you?
Because she looked like the victim of an assault.
And for the first time, investigators say they have corroboration for DeVerne's story about the fight. When the case was reopened, 2 new witnesses from a neighboring boat came forward, claiming they not only heard the fight, one says she saw it.
Saw figures on the back of the Splendor, a male and a female, whose voices they recognized as being Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood, arguing in the back of the boat.
Investigators still don't know how Natalie Wood got in the water, but Lieutenant Carina has his suspicions.
Do you believe Natalie Wood was murdered?
I think it's suspicious enough to make us think that something happened. I don't think she got in the water herself. I don't think she fell into the water.
And they have questions about Robert Wagner's accounts of that night.
Do you think Robert Wagner has ever told the truth of exactly what happened?
I haven't seen it, and his version of events just don't add up to the evidence and the witnesses we found.
Is Robert Wagner a suspect?
No.
When the case was reopened, Lieutenant Carina said Robert Wagner was not a suspect. We asked if that had changed.
As we've investigated the case over the last 6 years, I think he's more of a person of interest now. We know now that he was the last person to be with Natalie before she disappeared.
48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty has been following this new investigation from the very beginning. Wow. That's a bombshell, I suppose, but for people who have been obsessed with this case, and many, many people have been, I'm sure Robert Wagner was always someone that they wondered, you know, is his account of what happened accurate?
Well, I think there were always questions, even back in 1981, because Natalie Wood had been known to be afraid of dark water. And so the initial story that came out was, well, there were 2. At first, Robert Wagner said, well, we didn't call for help right away because we thought at midnight she had taken the dinghy and gone back to the restaurant. Right. And then he doesn't call for an hour and a half, and then he calls and doesn't say it's Natalie Wood missing, but just did anyone see her at the restaurant? So that was always a big question. But for the very first time now, what's really significant now is that these investigators who are part of this reopened investigation are calling him a person of interest. And they say he has become a person of interest because they believe from everything they've gathered, all the evidence, witness statements, that the death is suspicious, and they also believe, based on this new evidence, that he was the last person to see her alive. So he is a person of interest, not a suspect.
Erin, let's just take a step back and remind our viewers, perhaps our younger viewers, who may not realize how big of a star Natalie Wood was, including Robert Wagner. I mean, she'd starred in some of the biggest movies of all time: Miracle on 34th Street, Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean, Splendor in the Grass with Warren Beatty.
She had 3 Oscar nominations. And then, of course, her husband was much more of the TV star. So they were the it couple. I think Natalie's sister, who we also interview, and that's kind of interesting because you get a sense of what she might have looked like today from her sister, compared them to Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. That it was that kind of, and that was a lot of pressure on them, just like it was on Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. A lot of that pressure of wanting this perfect couple.
Did they have a volatile marriage? Do we know?
Well, they were married twice, believe it or not. So the first time only 4 years, and then the second time 9 years before her death. So yes, definitely, they were both married to people in between. Well,
you have some, I'm interested to see, you have one of the graphics that we saw in your package showing her autopsy report,
Yeah,
right?
the autopsy. And, you know, initially, I mean, there were a lot of bruises. But initially, the first coroner said, well, they're superficial. But the medical examiner, who then changed the manner of death from accidental to undetermined, was very concerned when they did a supplemental report with an injury that was on her right forearm.
Right,
it's the upper, yes, it's the upper part of the arm that concerned. Of course, you know, I mean, she was drunk, and she was drunk when she died.
Right.
And when if you've had a lot of alcohol, you do bruise easier. But they believe those were fresh bruises and that they happened before she went into the water, or
like
at least
maybe
before
someone
she died.
grabbing an arm or something along those lines.
There are a lot of questions. A lot
of questions. So we've got these new witnesses now. And I heard, you know, that little segment there. The witnesses say that they could identify the voices that were arguing. I mean, how credible is that?
Well, because it's very close. The boats are very close. And they were really well known. I mean, that was it. So 2 of these witnesses who were on a nearby boat say they heard it. One said she saw it. And so why that matters is because Robert Wagner has always denied there was a fight. And up until now, it was only the ship's captain who said that there had been a fight in the back of the boat. So with these 2 new witnesses, according to the investigators, that really calls real questions into Wagner's account.
Wow.
Such a fascinating story. I'm glad we're all over it. And it's important, I think, that they're taking another look at this, because a lot of people have a lot of questions that they want answered.
I think it's, since all of us still remember it, and we all say we had, you know, questions, I think it could put a big mystery to rest.
Right. Well, Erin Moriarty, thank you so much. And you can see Erin's full report, Natalie Wood, Death in Dark Water, on 48 Hours, Saturday night at 10, 9 Central on CBS.